Here's a good idea to track, whatever you're looking at. Little chart I can erase here on this little poster board. Just starting it on Friday now. Get SBET, NEG, XXRP, PLTR, BMNR, and I think BMNR and SBET affiliated with Tom Lee. I think he's invested in these companies or he's a part of it, whatever he's doing. So let's take a look at BMNR, Bitmine Immersion Technologies. Another thing you will learn in the market is when you have splits, usually after a split, the stock will move. And it did move a little bit here, but then came back. And then something's up. And this went to 120, now 160, 161, and it was at a low of $4. That's incredible. And so this was a big pump up, came back, formed this little falling wedge now. See this? And you're breaking out. You hit a low before. See the low on stochastics, they moved before you went up. So low, got a little bit higher here, right on this candle at the end of this move, you're starting to come up, and you see it here at about 32-ish, 30.78, and you're at 52 now. So that is a strong move, for a long, after coming back from this big high move down. And it's in play. Once it starts to move up like this, you're reading news, who's involved in it. That's what you got to look for on BMNR. All right, let's take a look at, of course, PLTR. And of course, this is an absolute beast, 187.69. Now you look at this, from a point, heavily pumped, of course. They're talking about it at CNBC. Numbers are good. And you can take back from that April low right here, 66.12, you're at 187. Now, when you go back in April, you don't know that's the actual low. You can look at the weekly and say you're getting pretty close to the bottom. That's a good time to get in which it was. And then all these dips are starting to be bought. You look at the weekly. This came deep, but not even that deep, and it started to cross over. See, once you have the crossover in the weekly, that is a very good sign. White over red. Do you see any, see the line going back and forth, jaggedy? No, it's a straight up move. That's what you look for. Always look further out to tell you what's going to happen, in the shorter term. And this is a bullish trend all the way up. You're at 187 now. Monthly chart looks like it's going to cross, so I'd be careful here. Volume is decreasing. Tells me something could be up here. Pullback maybe. But it's been a beast. Every dip's been bought. Any dip, this could fall to 160, and then you'll be in that trend line on PLTR. All right, what else we got here? Let me move this here. NEGG. All right, we just did this one. So, looking at longer term on this too. Actually, draw a trend line from here. These wicks. And you see all these moves on NEGG going down 200, major move up, going down. This has put in a lot of wicks, and it had a split and another split. Look at that shooting star, came all the way back down. Now you're coming up. The monthly is showing all these green candles in a row. You got 3, 4, 5. Getting overbought here. Be careful here. 79 could be running out of steam, at least for a pullback. Did that before in this candle. This could easily pull back to 40, and then it could bounce again and go long again. That's what you got to look for on these moves, that you're, penny stocks basically exploding up, coming back, then going up further. You got to watch your trend lines. If you're playing this, watch this trend line, and then a secondary trend line on NEG. Maybe this will go to 100, then a big collapse. We'll see. All right, what else? Yeah, XXRP. I called this one too, so you had to move up the high line. Here's your low line, the explosion up in July, big pullback, and a lot of crypto pullback. But look what I said here, it's getting very oversold. And look at your line right here. You're at 7 on stochastics. That's a deep level, hot zone to buy, extreme hot zone. And then you just gapped up. You're basically going from 39.59 now to 49.50. This has room to run because you hit the bottom of this trend line. Right here, there's your high line. So you get that high line all the way across. So when you had that room to go back up and eventually retest the highs. This doesn't have a lot to go on. See the weekly chart. There's nothing showing here. So we'll watch and see how far this can go. What else we got? SBET. This is another part of, I believe, Tomley is in. Oh yeah, this is the one I was saying 120 before in the other first video. So the low here is 279. You go to 124.12. Look at the pullback. Now look how this. Actually, I'll put in a line here. Right from that low, basically. And look how this runs across. And this is the 10 line. So you came back, 10 line right here. Look how flattened out. That's a good sign you're holding there. Now, could this drop again, go lower? That's what you got to watch for. Anything's possible. But once you have a move up, big move, you come down, you base, you go sideways, and there you get a 40. And now you're pulling back, and you're trying to go up again. And it's at 23.96, which was the low here. Low was 17.69. Look at the crossover, though. You love this deep move back, and you got to a cross right here, 366 stochastics, white over red, very strong upflow. You don't even see a wrinkle in the trend there. And we'll see how high this goes. 23.96 right now. What's the weekly showing? Anything? Weekly doesn't show much. You get a cross, and it's red still over white. But this is how you play these moves for short-term gains. We're looking for. Once you have that move from high to low, people are jumping in here, here. They don't know how to read it. You're reading this red over white. You have no crossover, and you want to look for deep. 0 to 20, basically, your oversold zones. 0 to 10 is the hottest zone. 10 to 20, hot zone, and 20 to 50. All these can be bought, but it depends on what you're doing on the chart exactly. So this is coming all the way down, and then it goes all the way to the bottom zone, and that is your best point to buy. So that's what you're looking at. So we'll see what happens this week on SBET, NEG, XXRP, PLTR, BMNR, and that is it. Please subscribe to Mike Hammond Trades on YouTube. Check out all social media. Peace.